All right, welcome. This is an event hosted by the Office of Programs to Enhance Neuroscience Workforce Diversity within the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. We're very pleased to welcome you to the Open Stage webinar series. This is a targeted outreach effort that we have for our diverse neuroscience community to learn about NINDS programs and network with NIH and NINDS program staff. This month, we're very excited to also partner with the American Epilepsy Society to provide an overview of active funding opportunities and exciting new research in the epilepsy. So before we get started, I just have a few housekeeping items. All attendees are muted. So if you have a question, you're welcome to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you have any other general comments, you can also use the chat, but keep your questions to the Q&A. You can also upvote questions if you'd like. You can also enable closed captioning under live transcript at the bottom of your screen. And a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. It'll be transcribed and archived on our website. And we are going to send you so much information after this webinar. We'll send you the slides, we'll send you the recording, we'll send you all these resources that we're going to share today. So don't worry about that, taking notes or getting the slides later. I will send you all the things after. All right. We're very excited to get started. Please do stay connected with us. Join us on Twitter, subscribe to our listserv, email us if you have questions. But without further ado, I will pass it to Dr. Vicki Whitmore to get us started.
Thank you, Anna, and welcome everyone. And it's our pleasure to welcome you this afternoon to this webinar. And thank you everyone who has agreed to serve either as a speaker from NIH or our panelists. And so we'll jump right in. So what we're going to do today is just to have an overview of NINDS research programs in epilepsy. And we'll have 3 individuals from NINDS talk to you about programs that we have here. As was mentioned, this webinar is being done in collaboration with our colleagues at the American Epilepsy Society. So then you'll hear from Michelle from AES, and then we'll turn it over to George Umana, who will moderate a panel discussion with several grantees, either NINDS or AES grantees. So without any further ado, I would like to turn it over to Heidi Matos Galicia, who's going to be the first speaker from NINDS. Thank you, Heidi.
Hi, everyone. Glad that you could join us. So as Vicky said, my name is Heidi Matos, and I'm a health program specialist in the Division of Neuroscience. Today, I will be talking to you about research programs within our division, under which you can apply for to fund epilepsy research. So delay in the slides, I think. Right, so firstly, we have an assortment of training programs for different career stages and career tracks. For example, for medical and graduate students, there are F30 and F31 mechanisms that aim to fund their pre-doctoral research. For pre-doctoral students that are transitioning into the postdoctoral position, there are funding mechanisms under the F99 K00. There are funding opportunity for postdoctoral fellows with the F32. And there are various types of K programs for postdoctoral or medical fellows transitioning into independent research, such as the K99 R00, K01, etc. Additionally, there are research supplements for established NINDS grantees so that they can recruit trainees to participate in research activities under their funded research projects, specifically trainees from diverse backgrounds. Within those training mechanisms that I just shared, there are a few special programs to enhance workforce diversity, such as F31, the Mosaic K99 R00, and the K01 programs that are listed here. Beyond the trainee phase, we also have established programs and policies to help early stage investigators, also called ESIs, to get better established into their research careers. We have policies targeted to help early stage investigators better compete with established researchers. We have an R1 program for new and at-risk investigators. There is an NIH Common Fund program to improve institutional excellence by implementing a culture of inclusiveness, by hiring a diverse cohort of faculty, and support their development, mentoring, and promotion. And finally, there are NIH Common Fund programs that are high risk, high reward for those exceptionally motivated and innovator ESIs. Beyond the programs, some of the projects that we fund in NINDS specifically for advancing epilepsy research are the Centers Without Walls, or CWOWs. These are large, multidisciplinary, and highly collaborative projects where investigators from different expertise and oftentimes different institutions come together by combining their knowledge to tackle specific gaps in epilepsy research. Think about it like the Power Rangers for epilepsy research. These Centers Without Walls have so far made great contributions to advance research in the epilepsies. And so have contributions of some of the basic epilepsy research that NINDS has funded so far. Something that I want to encourage everyone is to always contact our program staff, as they can help you navigate the grant application process. And here is a list of our epilepsy program officials that you can contact. And this information, as said at the beginning, will get to you. Lastly, NIH and NINDS have some fantastic tools that may help you as you go through the application process to fund your epilepsy research. And those are listed here and will also be shared to you after this seminar. And with that, I pass it to Dr. Yogi Raul, who is a scientific program manager in the Division of Translational Research. Yogi.
Yeah, hi. So I'll highlight DTR programs and training opportunities that are more relevant to epilepsy researchers and to the early stage investigators. So I'm in the Division of Translational Research, and the mission of the DTR is to accelerate basic research findings towards patient use for neurological disorders and stroke. So DTR programs can be very broadly divided into feasibility programs and development programs. So feasibility programs, for example, will help you to determine whether your hits or lead compounds are effective. And these programs includes ETSP, PSPP, Ignite, and Neuroscience Biomarker Program. And the development programs are the ones which will, for example, help you with the optimization of your lead drug asset and conduct early stage clinical trials. And this program includes NIH Blueprint programs, small molecules and biologics, PTDP, urgent program, neural devices program, SBIR, and then neuroexposome and contract programs. So epilepsy therapy screening program is the only program in DTR whose sole focus is epilepsy. And the mission of the program is to facilitate the discovery of new therapeutic agents to address the unmet medical needs in epilepsy. The program was established in 1975, and so far more than 600 participants from 38 countries have participated in the program. We have successfully contributed to the identification of 11 clinically available drugs to treat epileptic seizures. So ETSP is a publicly funded program, and so it offers services to the participant at no cost. And the current focus of our program is based on the unmet medical needs in epilepsy is to identify a treatment that can treat drug-resistant epilepsy, or a treatment that can prevent development of epilepsy, or at least modify the disease progression in a way that it to improve the better outcomes. The program has 4 components: NINDS program staff, which manages the program, participants that can be global and from academic or industries. We have a compound handling site, which handles the shipping of the compound, de-identifies the compounds, and sends it to the contract testing site, which is currently University of Utah. And the contract testing site is is blinded to the identity and source of the compound. And this increases the rigor of our studies. So the enrollment criteria includes novelty. So for example, a novel mechanism of action. It should have a clear scientific rationale and should have a demonstrated brain bioavailability unless the target is peripheral. So to learn more about an ETSP, please visit ETSP website or contact Program Director Brian Klein. I will also encourage you to check out ETSP Panache website. This has non-confidential data from more than 300 compounds. It also provides information about the models and the workflow that ETSP uses. So another program is Ignite. It has 3 milestone-driven funding opportunities for the assay development, characterization of neurotherapeutic agents, and then development of model systems. So the neuroscience biomarker program is another program that would be relevant to epilepsy researchers. This program funds a project to identify and validate biomarkers for neurological diseases. In the next 3 slides, I'll provide information about training opportunities that may be helpful to you if you're interested in translational research. So NIH Small Business Program will shortly have a training grant that will provide support to scientists who are new to business aspect of the drug development process. So this is more like a K award where an applicant will need to have a mentor. Another training is in the neurotherapeutics discovery and development. This training program will introduce participants to the important aspects of therapeutic development, such as, for example, toxicology testing and preparation of an IND document. So that course on translational devices. This is funded through a research education grant and will teach you, for example, steps required for successful neural medical device development and commercialization. Thank you for your attention, and please contact me if you have any questions, and I will connect you to the right DTR program officer. Thanks. The next speaker is Sharice Sankar.
Thank you, Yogi. Hello, everyone. My name is Shri Sankar. I'm a program director in the Office of Global Health and Health Disparities, which is within the Division of Clinical Research. NINDS is committed to reducing the disproportionate impact of neurological disease borne by underserved groups of society by funding a spectrum of research from basic science through clinical studies and training the next generation of health disparities investigators. Our office leads the coordination, development, and reporting on programs and initiatives related to national and international research on disparities and inequities in neurological disease. Our global health and health equity programmatic activities include building sustainable capacity in low and middle income countries to conduct and apply research to address public health challenges associated with neurological disorders, supporting bilateral partnerships between the US and middle to high income countries in research areas that are of mutual interest, and advancing research on tailored prevention and treatment strategies aimed at improving neurological health outcomes in underserved and understudied populations in the US. We engage in strategic planning to conceptualize and prioritize research initiatives likely to have the greatest impact in advancing global health and health equity. The Health Equity Strategic Planning process wrapped up in 2022, and the Global Health Strategic Plan is currently underway. Our Health Equity Plan was published in the form of an open access supplement in the journal Neurology. There are 10 manuscripts within the supplement, and they're briefly highlighted here. I encourage you to read the executive summary to get an overview of the plan as a whole. One of the published manuscripts summarized stakeholder insights received from the NINDS's request for information, which asked about health equity research priority disease areas and populations. Epilepsy and seizure were among the top 5 neurologic diseases listed as health equity research priority areas, And when asked about which populations were most vulnerable, multiple population types were chosen, with low socioeconomic status and racial and ethnic minority groups being among the highest. So we recognize the need to focus on disparities in epilepsy as a priority area and are working with our NINDS colleagues to strategize how best to go about that. Building from the recommendations of the Health Equity Strategic Plan, we launched the Community Engaged Health Equity Research in Neuroscience, or HERN initiative. This initiative incorporates two overarching goals within the Health Equity Strategic Plan, including understanding specific drivers of health disparities and barriers to neurological health equity, and developing sustainable interventions to address these disparities. Recommendations from the planning process outlines how to accomplish these goals using three overarching elements: community engagement, health equity research, and multidisciplinary research teams, with the cross-cutting theme of training and capacity building. The HERN initiative focuses on populations listed here as NIH-designated populations that experience health disparities, and it covers all neurologic disorders. And just to note that the receipt deadline for this initiative has passed, but we hope you'll join our listserv to stay in contact about future opportunities within the HERN initiative. And our office staff is shown here. Our office is led by Dr. Richard Benson, and we have dedicated staff focused on health disparities, including myself, as well as dedicated staff focused on global health efforts. So my global health colleagues are here with us today, Dr. Sudha Srinivasan and Ms. Stacy Chambers. So I encourage you to reach out to any of us based on your areas of interest, and I'll also provide pertinent links in the chat. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Norton, and I am the Senior Research Manager at the American Epilepsy Society. And one of my primary roles is to really support the grant cycles from start to finish. So today we'll be going over the different opportunities that AES offers. To start off, I wanted to briefly review our vision, mission, and values. I wanted to highlight this because grant cycle to grant cycle, one thing that we try to do with our council and committee members is to ensure that the grant opportunities continue to include language and intent that supports this mission, vision, and values. So starting off with our some of our early career grantee, early career research support funding, the first three listed here, the predoctoral research fellowship, postdoctoral research fellowship, and research and training fellowships. These are our mentored research awards. For the pre-doc, we support predoctoral students pursuing dissertation research with an epilepsy relevant theme under the guidance of a mentor, of course, with expertise in epilepsy research. For the postdoctoral fellowship, this supports postdoctoral trainees conducting basic translational or clinical research into the causes, treatment, and consequences of epilepsy, seizures, and related disorders, and their treatment under the guidance of a mentor, of course, again, with expertise in epilepsy research. For the research and training fellowship for clinicians, this one supports this one provides mentored support for clinical fellows or clinical faculty who intend to pursue a career in epilepsy research. For our Junior Investigator Research Award, this one supports epilepsy research for recently independent investigators. And the intent is to facilitate successful competition for subsequent long-term support. The next early career research opportunity that I wanted to highlight is funded fully by the Epilepsy Study Consortium, and they sponsor a mini grant of up to $22,000 for epilepsy fellows to undertake a mentored research project on anti-epileptic drug therapy during their fellowship training and to attend the AES annual meeting. One thing that I do want to highlight about this award is that it does not require past experience with research or a specific percent of protected time for the research, but instead focuses on mentorship and training experience for the fellow. The final early career opportunity that I wanted to highlight, that we are going to highlight, is the Sergievsky Award for Epilepsy, Health, Equity, and Diversity. So the intention of this award is to facilitate the launch of individuals into a career of leadership in academic clinical research. We welcome proposals from across the spectrum of epilepsy research, with preference for clinical research that addresses issues affecting medically underserved individuals with epilepsy or seizures or related aspects of health equity. In addition to some of the benefits highlighted here, this also includes 2 years of membership and complimentary registration to the AES annual meeting. And then also here, I've highlighted our Sergievsky scholars, one of which we'll have the opportunity to hear from in a little bit. So with the Sergievsky Award, we were able to launch this funding opportunity after a generous donation from the Sergievsky family. And with this particular award, this is fairly new. So we are in the 3rd cycle of this award. And earlier when I spoke back about us evaluating the application cycle to cycle, this is a perfect example of that, because each year, we've had the opportunity to tweak it to continue to meet the intent of this award. So next, you will see some highlights of our established investigator research support, the AES infrastructure grant, which is only available during the spring cycle. The research and training workshops have a fall and spring cycle, and the seed grants also have a fall and spring cycle. These actually close next week, April 3rd. So if anyone is interested, feel free to visit our website, or when these slides are routed, there are links to these opportunities. And this is just an overview of our grant cycle timeline from when the grant opportunities open to when the grant dates typically start, et cetera. So again, you can potentially look at this and compare that to other available grant cycles to see what would fit best. And then lastly, you know who I am now, and then Shauna Strickland, she is our Associate Director of Programs. So here's our contact information if you have any questions about these opportunities or really anything else supporting the AES is able to support. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Dr. Umane.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you all to our NIH AES presenters for the great and very informative presentation. That was really awesome. So I'm George Umana, one of the program directors at NINDS with the Division of Neuroscience. I oversee some of the epilepsy research. And joining the discussion panel this afternoon are grantees who have been funded by NIH and our AES and for their epilepsy research. And what we're going to be hearing from them is they're going to share with us their experience on how they got funded and how their interactions with NIDS or NIH staff, as well as AES staff, help them through that process. So I'm going to call their name, and once you hear them, we have 4 of them on today. And please introduce yourself, and if you can share a little bit about the process of getting funded, what you did, what type of funding that you had in the past, and what you currently have, and how the process went throughout your funding process and your interactions. So I'm going to start with Ivan. If you can introduce yourself, turn on your camera, please, and then introduce yourself and share your story with us.
Hi, yeah. Thanks, George. So I am Ivan. I'm a 4th year graduate student at Mount Sinai, currently in the lab of Tristan Schumann. And if you guys are interested about some of my research interests, really briefly, I'm really interested in sort of understanding the underlying circuit mechanisms that are dysregulated by things like temporal lobe epilepsy, and how those circuit changes can lead to cognitive deficits. And so I'm in my 4th year now. Currently, I'm in my 1st year of funding with the F99 program, so the D-SPAN program. And actually, in my first about 3 years that I was in the lab, I actually was funded by a diversity supplement to my PI's R01 grant. So that's another great mechanism that anyone online can sort of take advantage of. It can fully fund conference costs and salary and things like that. And then I'm going to say April last year is roughly when I applied to the F99 program, simply because my PI thought I would be a great fit, and other people in my program had actually gotten it as well. And so I was able to reach out to all of them and get help in sort of applying to the program. I remember I also sent a letter of intent to apply to the F99 program. So I reached out to Dr. Michelle Jones-London and Laura Ulrich, and they were really helpful in sort of notifying me of all the deadlines and things I needed to get ready for that application. And in terms of the application, it's pretty straightforward. It's very similar to the F31, in case any of you guys have any background with that. Just a few extra steps that have to be sort of tweaked for the F99 application. And so I had applied in April. I had heard a few months later, sometime in June or July, about comments to my application. And by September of that same year, I was already activating the 1st year of my funding for that award. And, I'm just going to say that, everyone that works with the D-SPAN office has been really kind and helpful in getting all those like materials together and letting you know like what you need to do and what the next steps are. So, reaching out directly to your program officers is always a great idea, and they're always very accommodating.
Great. Thank you so much, Ivan, for sharing that. And for those of you who want to know more about the program or mechanisms that Ivan just shared with us, please check the chat. All the links and everything has been uploaded in the chat for more information. We're going to go to our next panelist, Laura, if you want to share with us.
Okay, hi everyone. Again, my name is Laura Bell, and thank you, George, and to everyone for inviting me to participate on the panel. So I'm currently a postdoctoral research associate in Dr. Edward Nia's lab at the University of Virginia. So like Yvonne, I am also funded through the NIH NINDS D-SPAN program, the Diversity K99 or F99 K00 Transition Award. So I applied for this during my dissertation work at the University of Utah. And then I'm recently just starting my 2nd year of my postdoctoral work here at the University of Virginia. So my focus in epilepsy research is studying infection-induced epilepsy, and really specifically how oligodendrocyte precursor cells, a class of glial cells, contribute to neuroinflammation and epilepsy development following infection. But initially my epilepsy research and journey with NIH funding, I think, began very non-traditionally. So I didn't go to college right out of high school. Instead, I traveled and worked for a number of years, and then eventually started taking classes through community college in Colorado. And this is, I think, where my scientific curiosity was really sparked. I had a microbiology class where we had an independent project, and we could sort of come into the lab and use the microscopes whenever we wanted. And that's where something really clicked, like, wait, this is a career? People can actually do this for a living? Like, how do I do that? So I went on to finish my bachelor's at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, which is sort of the smaller campus of the University of Colorado system, which was historically thought of as like a commuter campus for working adults. They don't have ACOOC there, so there's no vertebrate research, no biomedical PhD programs, but they did have a couple of research laboratories in the biology department. So I sought out research in a lab where I studied morphogenesis of sensory neurons in Drosophila. And at this point, I think I still really had almost no idea what a PhD even was. And I was thinking I really loved research and I wanted to continue with it, maybe do a master's. And that's when my advisor was like, if you really love research and neuroscience, you should consider doing a PhD. So she reached out to some connections she had at the University of Colorado in Denver, and they had an NIH Blueprint Endure program, which was specifically designed to bring students from smaller campuses with more limited resources to the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus to conduct a summer research internship over the summer there. So I was accepted into this program and I got to do research in Dr. Wendy Macklin's lab. Her lab studies the role of oligodendrocytes and oligodendrocyte lineage cells, as well as myelination. So I became fascinated with the oligodendrocyte lineage during this participation in this NIH-funded summer research program. And then it was from this experience also that I had a chance for the first time to really interact with PhD students, postdocs, faculty at the R1 level. And so this was just a really exciting opportunity for me. Over the course of the summer, I went from not even knowing what a PhD was to now deciding like, this is what I want to do, like how do I continue? So the program also helped fund and develop my applications for graduate school. And I chose to go on to do a PhD in neuroscience at the University of Utah. And I initially developed or proposed an NSF graduate research fellowship project, which focused on my interest with oligodendrocyte lineage cells from my summer experience, but focused more on how these cells might contribute to neural excitability and synchronization. And so that led me into epilepsy research for the remainder of my PhD studies. So working in the lab of Dr. Karen Wilcox, she runs a lab through the EPSP, as well as mentoring graduate students through the neuroscience program. And she actually also had a really strong interest in glial cells and how they contribute to epilepsy development. So where her lab had largely focused on microglia and astrocytes, upon joining her lab, she was like, why not oligodendrocyte lineage cells as well? So by the time I had finished my NSF, I was a little late stage to apply for an F31. So that's where we found the DSPAN, the F99K00. And because of COVID, I had kind of a interrupted PhD and a number of challenges to overcome. So there, at the end of my PhD, I kept finding that there were more and more questions that I wanted to follow through on and to ask. So we were able to sort of develop my transition to postdoc plan based on some of the remaining questions from my graduate work. So now I've come to the University of Virginia, where I'm continuing to study infection-induced epilepsies, looking at the role of OPCs or oligodendrocyte precursor cells in infection-induced epilepsy. Here I'm looking at things in vivo, deep imaging in the hippocampus and awake mice. And I am excited to be here, and I couldn't say good enough things about all the programs and things I've been a part of through the NIH funding. So I would love to help connect others. Please reach out if you have any questions or want to chat more about those experiences.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. That was very helpful and very useful information. We now want to introduce Saniana.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Amana. I'm Sunita Hunter. I am an assistant professor at the University of North Carolina in the Department of Neurology. I'm a clinician researcher here, and my research and clinical work focuses on understanding the neurogenetic cause of drug-resistant epilepsies, specifically developmental and epileptic encephalopathies. And my research prioritizes inclusion of underserved populations in genomic studies. I just want to tell you a little bit about my typical journey because it informs the funding that I have. I initially did bench research. I got a PhD in biological chemistry and then spent some time doing molecular biology and biochemistry bench research as a fellow at Yale and NIEHS. And then I decided that I wanted to combine that with patient care. So went back to medical school and then got a fellowship in clinical neurophysiology and became faculty at UNC. And my plan was to do clinical research, but I realized there was a knowledge gap. Bench research and clinical research are not the same. And so to fill that gap, I applied for the Child Neurology Career Development Program K-12. And that award is funded and supported by NINDS. And my first application, while it was very unsuccessful, it was very informative. That is the Child Neurology Career Development Program is a program indeed that is designed to help child neurologists become successful researchers, whether it's bench research or clinical research. And so through that program, I learned a lot about funding, including Dr. Adam Hartman attends the program retreats, the Child Neurology Career Development Program retreats, and teaches us about funding strategies for success, alternative mechanisms for funding, and ways that we can still become successful while waiting to be independent researchers. And so through that program, I learned about the American Epilepsy Society Award for Epilepsy Health Equity and Diversity. I was able to meet the program officers that helped develop the award at AES and learn about their goals of funding, how their vision aligns with my research, and my application for that was successful. And so the AES Sergievsky Award really expanded opportunities for me. I was able to join committees at AES. I took part in the AES Early Career Grant Review Program. I met several clinician researchers at AES and then also met several NINDS program staff members, including Drs. Whitmore and Amana. And I was able to talk about what the goals of NINDS are and how that fit with my research. Through these two programs, I've learned about grantsmanship. I reached out to the Child Neurology Career Development Program officers and discussed the feedback from my initial failed application and talked about how to improve not only that application, but my research in general. And that has really helped launch my research, but then also helped me gain additional funding. I reapplied for that K-12 and it was successful. So through all of these programs, several of which have been talked about today, like Michelle talked about the Sergievsky Award, I learned that both AES and NINDS are excited about medicine and they're eager to interact with us to promote our science, and they're very accessible.
Thank you so much, Senian. That was really nice sharing that story. We're going to move on to Marco.
Hi, everybody. I am Marco Gonzalez. I am an associate professor at UC Davis. I study epilepsy with a focus on the proteolytic events that damage inhibitory synapses. We are trying to figure out if after we induce an injury to trigger epilepsy in animal models, we can detect which proteins are being degraded. And then the idea will be to try to block these proteolytic events to see if we can prevent or at least reduce the incidency of epilepsy in the animal models, and then this could be then translated to humans. But I started my interaction with the NIH and all these granting mechanisms when I was an instructor, because before doing epilepsy, I was doing brain research, but it was more related to glutamate transporter. So it had nothing to do with epilepsy. And when I started as an instructor at the University of Colorado, the idea was to gain some experience doing research in epilepsy, but also try to become independent. So what I did was apply for a KO1 award to obtain the tools that I needed to become independent. And this happened to be a mechanism to promote diversity in neuroscience research. So luckily, I contacted Michelle London-Jones, and she helped me navigate this process. I had no experience writing grants with NIH, so it was a little bit of a difficult process. But I reached out to other people that had gotten these kind of awards, and they gave me a lot of feedback. And with the help of the staff at NIH, I was able to successfully apply and get one of these awards. That also facilitated my transition from an instructor to an assistant professor. And while running my KO1 award, I started preparing to my first R1. The idea was that by the end of the KO1, I will be already on the path to successfully have an R1. Luckily, I had the advantage of having the status of being a new investigator. So the first time that I submitted the R1, it was not successful, so I had to revise it. And I went back to the staff of NIH to get a guidance of what was wrong with the grant, try to figure out what the problems were. And then they helped me to sort of go over the issues that they found in the grant and then reapply. The second time that I submitted the grant, the score was good, but was not good enough to be within the pool of top applicants. So then I contacted the program officer, and the program officer told me what the issues were and whether I have a chance to get funded because I was a new investigator. So we took advantage of that status because you probably heard before that right now the standard of funding or your funding chances are around 11%. But if you are a new investigator, you had a little bit of a bump. But if you are an early stage investigator, your chances are of about 22%. So you have a better chance of getting funded as an early investigator. And many times you don't know about all these issues until you discuss it with your program officer. So if any advice that I can give you is contact a program officer as early as you can. Even if you don't have a grant written, just establish the contact so you start deciding what is the best program that will fit with your research, and also what are the mechanisms that you can find. So I went from the KO1 to the R1 because it just fit the things that I was doing at the time. And I didn't know about many of these steps that I needed to take to be successful until I contacted the program officer. So just be prepared when you contact your program officer, have some clear idea in mind, talk to them, and remember they are busy, but they will still be able to dedicate time to you. So just be patient, contact them early, and then go over their advice. They are your best advocate to get funded. They actually want you to get funded. So interact with them all the time and follow their advice.
Thank you so much, Marco. At this time, I'm going to ask the rest of our panelists to join us. If you guys can join, Evan, Laura, and Senya, if you guys can join us. So it was great to hear from everyone how you guys went through the process to get your funding and looking at the different career stages. My question to the panelists is, at what stage throughout the process did you feel like you need to see an NIH staff or you need to talk to an AES person? At what stage do you think you needed to do that? And what will be your recommendation for somebody who is trying to do a similar thing that you did? Where should they start? And how should they approach it? So I'm just going to open it up to all four of you. You have about 2 minutes each to say something about that. Yeah.
I mean, I can start.
Okay.
Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, when I knew that I was intending on applying to the F99, and my PI and I had set like an intended date for like submission. So basically all the dates are online, and there are different cycles in which you can apply in. And so once we had decided which cycle we were going to apply to, the first thing I did was just write a letter of intent over to the DSPAN program, just letting them know, like, hey, I'm going to be submitting an application in April. Is there any changes that might not be on the website that you should let me know of? All those sorts of things, just so I have it sort of in one centralized email. And everyone at the DSPAN office was really helpful in sort of getting me set up with all of that info. And I'd say also the biggest help for me in getting ready to apply was just basically reaching out to other people that had already applied and gotten the award. So thankfully, I was able to reach out to some people that were at my institution, and even some people that I knew were in others and had applied and gotten it. You know, everyone's info is online, and you can reach out to them through their emails. And everyone I've met has been really open and sort of sending you like their applications, what they thought was useful to include, and use theirs as a template. And so I think that's the main thing to do. And obviously, at any point that I've had questions about sort of deadlines or things to include, you know, working ahead of time, you know, you can always reach out to program officers and that sort of thing. For me, being in the early stages of my F99, I found that was the most useful time to reach out.
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in to follow up on what Yvonne said about the DSPAN program. Similar to him, I also reached out to Lauren Ulrich and Michelle London Jones early on to sort of set the timeline and make sure, you know, I knew what the application focus, what they were looking for, and that our goals aligned. But then it really was the DSPAN community, like reaching out to current awardees. People were very sharing of materials and their advice as they experienced it through their application process. So that was super helpful. As I've kind of transitioned through from the F99 phase in graduate school to now my postdoctoral phase with the K00, there were several kind of setbacks, and my POs were incredibly supportive of working with me with timeline issues, with moving issues, and different various different difficulties. Both Michelle and Lauren are at SFN every year. There's like an annual meeting of the DSPAN fellows, so you can always connect with people there as well. So all of it's been extremely helpful for me.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I for my initial K-12 award, the Child Neurology Career Development Program, I had examples of successful awards. But I would say I echo what Marco said, that reaching out early to program officers is very key. What I learned from that experience, it was for any future applications, as I'm thinking about the award themselves, as I'm formulating specific aims page and thinking about how my research aligns with the RFA, that is the time to reach out. And so for subsequent awards for AES, and then again for my, when I reapplied for the Child Neurology Career Development Program that's supported by NINDS, I reached out at the very beginning as I was drafting the awards, as I was funding them, even though I had examples of other successful awards and was in touch with people who were successful, were funded. It was most helpful for me to talk to program officers very early as I was drafting my awards and as I was honing my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Marco, do you want to add last? Yep.
Yeah, just look around in your community, on your university. Sometimes we don't realize that there is a lot of resources around us that can help us. There is people that is willing to give you one proposal that was successful, so you can look at it and get a better sense of how to go about it. But also what I realized is that here at UC Davis, there is some panel of reviews, especially now that funding is getting a little bit more difficult. For example, in the department, there is a K-12 club, sort of club, where you can actually send your proposal and then can do like a pre-review and give you advice on how to modify it or things that you are missing. So reach out to NIH, but also reach out to your community, because many times you don't realize that there is a good network that you can build. And of course, if you can send your grant to someone nearby you that can give you a first review, that will always be very helpful, so you can adjust.
Thank you so much, Marco, and thank you guys. This time I'm going to ask our NIH and AES presenters to turn on their camera for our Q&A session. I don't think we have time to go through all the questions that we have, but we're going to try. And I think Michelle already addressed some of the questions in the chat. So there were a few questions in the chat that Michelle addressed. Michelle, do you want to talk a little bit about that before I have my questions up?
I am happy to. Two of the questions were specific to AES, so I responded to those in terms of the eligibility criteria. The third question about citizenship, I answered on behalf of AES, and I see that Heidi answered on behalf of NIH. So I didn't, I wanted to highlight that to make sure if there were any other opportunities that did not require U.S. citizenship, if those could be, dropped in there so that our attendees know.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. So please keep checking the chat for more information that's being posted in there. And again, this is going to be shared with everyone. So one of the questions that was what I think came up during the registration is, are there specific areas within epilepsy research that are underfunded or required increased attention? And this is going to be to both all NINDS and AES. So when it comes to epilepsy research, is there an area or specific areas that's underfunded, and whether there's an area where it requires more attention?
I'll take a first stab at that. So I think, as everyone may know, we have the epilepsy benchmarks that really lay out research priorities for the community. And if you look at the grants funded across the epilepsy landscape, there is a gap in funding the comorbidities that go along with the epilepsy. So neurodevelopment, neuropsychological and neuropsychiatric issues like depression and anxiety. So those are areas that we are always looking to help to support research in those areas. When we do an overall look at basic translational and clinical research, the area of research that has had the most growth is actually in translational research, but that area really is also an area where we would love to see a lot more research grant applications coming in, where you're taking your basic science findings into a translational program, as Yogi talked about our translational programs, that's going to help you to develop a new compound, a new device, a new animal model to use for drug testing and screening, that's really going to help move treatments, new treatments for the epilepsies forward. So I'll see if any of my other colleagues also want to comment on that question, or if Michelle wants to make a comment.
My comment was simply that we reference those same benchmarks in our opportunities. So I think that that's a great place to start. And then specifically for the Sergievsky Award that we offer, that is very specific to health disparities. So that's in general, I think when responding to an opportunity, one of the first recommendations I make to applicants is to really dissect that RFA. What does it state? What is it referencing? And if you have any questions, reach out to either program officer or, like myself for AES to further clarify something that might not be in that written material.
Thank you. So there's a question in the chat, the Q&A chat. Could someone please describe the best opportunities available for senior postdocs or research scientists? What are some of the best opportunities for postdocs, senior postdocs, and research scientists? Yeah.
Start with this one. All of our early career opportunities, with the exception of the pre-doc, of course, because that is for pre-docs, would be, would meet this. Our cycle will open mid-August to early September, so that all of our early career opportunities would meet that specifically. So it would just be a matter, again, of looking at those to see which would best fit for this particular individual.
And from NINDS, NIH, anyone want to take that?
Yeah, I can mention, there's also the KO1, which is for postdoc up to 7 years within their postdoc.
And also a question about ESI pay line being 22 at 22 now. Is the question is whether that applies to the HAND program, which is the Health Equity Research Network initiative, I believe.
Right. Community Engaged Health Equity Research and Neuroscience Initiative. Yeah, thanks, George.
Yeah.
So in this case, the HERD initiative, there are sets of RFAs, and so they don't go by a pay line. I'm happy to talk more about that offline, but it is not pay line driven for how we make the decisions about HERD. And I'll just briefly respond to the previous question about gaps, recognizing that in our neurology supplement for the Health Equity Strategic Plan, when looking at the portfolio analysis that showed which health equity focused studies there were very few focused on epilepsy. So there's a recognition there that we need to do a better job with epilepsy disparities research as well.
Thank you so much.
I just want to make a quick comment that there is a distinction between a new investigator who new investigators do not receive the bump in the pay line, where early stage investigators do. So early stage investigators are within 10 years of your terminal degree. And so they're considered for the higher pay line, whereas new investigators are not. Those scores get all lumped in with established investigators. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you so much. So there was a question about, are there any other funding organization apart from AES that are non-NIH funding? I guess ICS, I don't know whether somebody wanted to talk a little bit about that. For epilepsy research, apart from NIH and AES, are there any other areas for any other organization that will help fund epilepsy research?
Yes, so there's the Susan Spencer Award, which is a collaboration between 3 entities, but that is through, I will post the link for that in the chat. And then I do also know there is CDMRP funding, for example, but that typically is more post-traumatic epilepsy, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And the other nonprofit that has a very active research funding program is Cure Epilepsy. So they fund everything from sort of early stage, what they call taking flight awards, to more established grant awards. So just search for Cure Epilepsy and you'll find their website as well.
And also TSC Alliance is another.
Yeah, many of the genetic epilepsy groups also support Tuberous Sclerosis Alliance, Dravet syndrome. Many of them have funding opportunities as well.
Well, thank you. Whether any of our NIDS will have like 30 seconds to talk about why folks have to apply for epilepsy research. Just 30 seconds to do that. And this is open to anyone on the panel.
It's an exciting research area. There is a lot of opportunity, a lot of different levels of research, everything from molecular biology to electrophysiology to clinical studies, imaging. So I think it's just there's a huge need for research on the epilepsies, because there's still many individuals who have epilepsy who are drug resistant, and treatments that we have available are not working for them. So there's a huge career path for you, and it's an exciting area of research to participate in.
All right. Thank you all. This was great. And thank you very much for the presentation and sharing your story. I'm going to now hand over to Anna to close this.
Thank you. I just want to echo my thanks to all of the NIH and AES staff for organizing this event with Open, and a huge thank you to our 4 panelists. Hopefully you got to see people at every kind of career stage that have gotten funding for their work, and yeah, hopefully this leaves you inspired and you get to see the people behind all these funding mechanisms that you can now reach out to. So final thoughts are, again, we'll share the slides, we'll share all the resources that we put in the chat and many more in an email. I will also just finally add a link to our listserv, so please do stay connected with us to learn more about future OpenStage webinars. And with that, I hope you all have a very nice evening and week ahead. Bye.
Bye. Thank you all.
Thank you.